you could go into a place and not know that there's like tons of extra things that are going to cost more. It depends on your property management company. It depends on who you're using. I ran all of our rentals for a long time. I was a horrible landlord, like horrible. I'll give myself like a D score, maybe an F at times, because I did not kick people out. I could fix the units, I could do all this stuff, and I was the landlord. Like I was doing all the maintenance myself, me and my guys and stuff like that, because I was running them all. I wrote my first rental agreement at 19 years old for my dad. And then we had an attorney check it out, and he was like, that's fine, because we based it off like 4 or 5 other investors. This was before scanning and all that stuff. So I was doing it by hand. But the hard part is really knowing how to handle it as emotion.
Welcome to The Breakthrough with Stephen Husted, the show that takes you behind the scenes with successful entrepreneurs, real estate investors, and other movers and shakers in the business world. In each episode, we'll sit down with our guests to explore their personal and professional journeys, including the challenges they faced, the breakthrough moments that propelled them to success, and the strategies and the tactics they use to get there. Get inspired by new ideas and strategies and get to know our guests on a deeper level. Join us for candid conversations, powerful insights, and plenty of breakthrough moments. Please help us grow by subscribing and sharing the podcast, and welcome to the show. Hey there, it's Stephen Husted. Welcome to another episode of The Breakthrough. Today we've got Matt Rody with us. Matt's been in the real estate game for years, especially in the Tacoma area. He's built everything from apartments to DADUs, detached accessory dwelling units, and knows the ins and outs of property development. In this episode, we'll dive into Matt's journey, including how he got started in construction with his dad, transitioned to marketing, and eventually found his niche in building DADUs. We'll discuss how new city regulations are opening up opportunities for investors and why Tacoma is becoming a hotspot for real estate development. Matt shares some great tips on what to look for in a property, the challenges of building new units, and how to maximize your investment. If you're into real estate or just curious about how to navigate the market, this episode is packed with practical advice and insights. Let's jump right in. There, you like that? How that started?
Oh yeah, that timer's sweet.
Yeah, well, the countdown begins.
There we go. And I like your melon hats.
Yeah, that's cool. That's funny that I like when guys notice the melon hats.
I do. I like them.
And they always, they're super cool. I've told myself the day that I get sponsored by Melon is the day I know that I made it.
You made it forever. You're good to go. Golden. Getting free hats every week. It's awesome.
Free hats. I just want, come on, just sponsor the podcast, right. Everybody. I want Melon as my sponsor. That's the first one. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so that's cool. Thanks for jumping on. I know this is like, we'll call it round 2. Something we were talking about before we started was we had a chat with Ann, and I said, hey, let's have a meeting together, like a meet and greet with you, and make it like a podcast. But it really wasn't the Breakthrough podcast. It was just a little mini introduction that went really well. And after we got done, I had spoke to Ann. I'm like, all right, yeah, Matt's my guy.
That's awesome.
He's good. Yeah, I already know I can get along with him, and he's cool. So I'm glad that you're able to jump back on today, and maybe we can chat some more and talk about life and what the heck you're doing out there in Tacoma. Hey, I'm sorry I didn't. Did you know I was out there with Ann?
I didn't until after you left. So
okay.
I saw the story and I'm like, oh, is he here? I text her and she was like, oh no, he was here on Wednesday. I was like, oh, okay. It was fine. I just was wondering. I just saw it. I was like, oh, he was here. So.
I'm sorry. You know what? I was going through a property tour dopamine.
Oh yeah. I know how that is. I used to tour people around all the time when I was an agent. So.
Yeah, it was crazy. You know, I flew in, I had 4 days. I went there about a week ago on a Sunday, and I started off in Redmond, Kirkland, Bellevue. That was the first thing. My one of my business partners has a house in
Okay.
Woodinville, so we started there, and then I left Sunday night, came back, went in. I stayed in downtown
Mhm.
Seattle and kind of did some touristy stuff
Yeah.
first. Kind of just
Yep.
checked out things and went to the Space Needle and check things out, and then started talking to some agents and checking out neighborhoods, and I was just like kind of blown away with everything that's going on in Seattle. It's just so much development, and not only is it cool development, it just aesthetically looks good. Maybe it's just what I like. Um, Completely different than what's going on in California, to be honest with you. But I think it's just a personal thing.
Right.
Um, but I saw you know, what's going on out there, and I got even more excited when I started seeing the whole Dadu plays out in Seattle, and then I left, met up with Anne, and had a few hours with her, but at that point, I was just so much
Oh, yeah.
I was like brain overload, and I was like, "Yeah, should I text Matt? Should I get to go to lunch?" I'm like, "No, I'm
No,
coming back.
and
It's all good. I'm gonna see him soon here anyways. We're fine."
you will see me soon. It is not a when you're doing that first initial thing, man, it takes, I mean, it's not a huge area here, but it's big enough, it's spread out. So,
Yeah,
it's not quite the same as California where it's a little more dense.
yeah.
It's a little more spread. So it takes a little longer, to get around here and learn the stuff and figure it out. And yeah, I used to have a lot of outside clients come in and we would show them around when I had a real estate team and stuff. So it was overwhelming.
I didn't know you worked in real estate, so tell me that
Yeah, so I
background.
was
I didn't know about that until you just told me just recently when before
yeah,
we got on this. I was like, "Oh, let's talk about
yeah,
that."
so I was a builder growing up. My dad made me go to college. He said I couldn't work with him unless I went to college. So I went to UW, got a business finance degree, helped run our company. I was our superintendent for 7 years and ran and learned all construction. And then the recession hit and we could not have my brother and I on staff. So in 2010 I went on my own and I'd gotten my license a while back. I'd sold a bunch by owner and started a team. I partnered with a gal that had showed me how to walk new construction when I was 19 because I had run a housing development for
Mm,
my dad. And but it was by owner, so I wasn't an agent at that time, but I learned how to sell at a young age, ran a development for about 5 years, and then got this team, partnered up with her again, and we decided we'd build this team. So we called it Washington Home Team. And it turned into, we probably had like 6, 7 agents. At one point, we had like 16, and we were like, that's not going to work. This is just too many people. But we were selling, we got up to about 200 one year sells during the recession time.
ooh,
In like 2012, right when it was starting to peak out.
yeah.
And so I failed at it, to tell you the truth. The team side, because I ended up giving most of my real estate, my own pipeline to my agents, which was probably the biggest failure that I could do as an agent, was get out of the actual day to day, right? And I was just mentoring. I was mentoring this person, that person, guiding them, teaching them how to do it, taking them through houses, just doing all the scripts. I wrote all of our scripts, a lot of them, took them from Buffini or this and that, and would change them up and doing a lot of lead generation. We were generating, I mean, one month, I think I was doing Craigslist. I was hammering Craigslist. Like we were beasts on Craigslist. I probably one month, I think I got like 5,000 leads off Craigslist. So we were
Wow,
just
that's crazy.
abusing Craigslist. Not gonna
That's
lie.
insane.
I had bought, like 600 pictures of houses, like uncopyrighted pictures, and just made tons of ads. And I was in control of that every day. I would keep the ads rolling and stuff. So I was our lead generator and it was crazy. But yeah, got into that. And then I went into marketing after that. That came apart. My partner, she lost her husband randomly 2 weeks after retirement. And it made her go crazy and I didn't want to do anymore. I sort of lost my love for it. The team side was not what I wanted to do per se. Um, and so I got out and did a marketing company, helped a friend, and that sort of went a little bit crazy itself. But I learned a ton about marketing. We were doing Facebook ads, Google ads, doing a lot of stuff around the nation. Went to Mexico City once to do stuff with a client down there and learned a lot. And then
What year was that?
That was in 2016 through 2000, about 20. We ran that, and in
Cool.
2019, we were working with a collision center down in uh, where was that? That was in Tennessee. They had 13 locations. We were doing marketing for them, and I had this random idea in like 2020 or 18, 19. Hey, we should do a collision center, man. They're sort of anti-cyclical. They're opposite of real estate, you know? So when real estate goes down, they stay consistent. And that's what we'd seen during the recession. It was like, oh my gosh, everything's falling out of the sky, you know? Which no, if you've been in real estate since 2012, no one knows what a down market. I mean, even now, this market is not even down, you know? Um,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
it still feels
Nobody knows.
like that. There's emotions involved, right? But it was
Sure.
down in 2008, 9, 10, 11. Um,
Big
it
time.
was,
But you
and
didn't,
I would
you thought, you thought it was going to keep on
that's
going.
right. You know, you just it is what it is. You just have to put your head down, and the ones that come out of that were really did have done well now, you know, like extremely well. I have one guy that
Yes.
did it on his own. I'll say his name, Mike Renard. He was one of my first guys that I coached for a long time, for like maybe a year and a half. And he just a couple of years ago sold like over 100 with just him and another person on his team. You know, I mean, that's kind of, you know, but he had to go through that fire of stuff, you know, early on, and it was fun watching that. But anyway, so I got into marketing. Then we decided to build this collision center as a family. So I got back with my dad, which was really my goal because I love working with my family because that's my brother, my dad, and I. And so I built this collision center. It was like 26,000 square feet, and it got me in. And my dad was like, "Hey, you know, he got a letter in the mail from Tacoma, and they said we want you to." Or he was like, "You should look into this because we're opening up our code to do these DADUs on investor properties. They've changed the code, they've changed the setbacks, they've changed all this stuff." And I'm building this building, going, "Dad, leave me alone. I'm working. I'm going hardcore." But about 4 months in, I was just finishing up that building, and I went, holy cow, this is amazing. So I started with real estate, you know, really on my own. That was on my own. I got away from my dad for about 9 years. And it was probably the best growing experience for me I've ever had in my life because yeah, I had no dad to back me up, nothing. It was just me and whoever I was partnered with. I learned a lot about partnerships. That was interesting. Um,
Uh huh.
yeah. So yeah. So then I got into the DADU thing and you know did three the first year, six the second year, 21 the yeah last year, and now we're just on our way now this year. We're building 17 right now, so it's moving along.
What did your, let's talk about what your dad does.
Yeah. My dad is a civil engineer. He is a type A personality to the nth degree. If you do disc test from Tony Robbins, he's a high D, high C. He's like this little crazy unicorn personality, and he socially can be as goofy as it comes. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. He's like IQ, I think, genius, and
Mm.
he knows groundwork probably just as good or better than anybody in the city of Tacoma. He's been doing that kind of stuff forever. He was a fun dad growing up. He always did good stuff for us. He's a very he never showed anger. You know, he was like a calm guy all the time. My mom, a little bit different on the other side, but they've been married. They're 50 years, I think, this year. I think they're 50 years this year, next year. Um, married, and he has been a businessman in this area since he was young. We were underground construction company at first, so we did all civil type work. So that's why his dad pushed him to be a civil engineer. He thrived at it, and so he had a surveying company and all that stuff under a umbrella of underground construction, and they did big stuff. They had a 1000 excavator, like it was one of the biggest track hoes on the West Coast for in the 80s, and so I was
Wow.
around big equipment all my life growing up. And then he started supplementing because we were a public company, so we were labor union. We were a union company, and my grandpa was always scared of doing private work for not getting paid or whatever. So my grandpa sort of lived in fear. Well, my dad wanted to go into the private sector because there was way more money there. And so he started supplementing by developing properties. And that was in the 70s and in the 80s, right there. And then he just continually did more and more. In 2000, he said, enough of underground construction. I'm going to go full time. And that's when he built his first apartment complex. It was 31 units with a partner. Ever since he's
Where?
been building apartments, houses. He's done hundreds of homes around here, infill lots. I
Really?
yeah, I probably superintended, I bet you 200, 100 units, 150 units maybe, over my time. I don't know exactly how many, but my brother's done a ton too. And we just built them over time, just little, we have a house, and we got the lot in the middle, and we're buying the house, subdividing a lot, segregating, doing mini short plats, doing boundary line revisions, all that kind of stuff, just to make an extra lot on a property. We used to be able to do variances like this and make them the right square footage. Now you can only do straight lines. But back in the day, it was sort of fun because you could do all kinds of stuff. We were one of the first people to do RCX. So they have X zoning in Tacoma, and it's a very it's a zero lot line type build. And we were one of the first in all of Tacoma in the 90s. I played basketball. I'm 6'7", and I was wearing like the most gangster big giant clothing at 19. Went over and knocked on this door with this dilapidated sign, talked to this lady that was in her 80s for about 30 minutes, and we ended up getting one of the first properties of RCX there. She sold it, her family sold it to us, and we built them. And we didn't even build them together because you can build them as townhouses. We didn't understand that yet. This code was so brand new. It was like that year had come out. And so we built them separately, but only like 3 feet apart. And didn't maximize the lot at all. We could have built a whole nother unit, didn't know. And so, yeah, we went through that. And so we've learned just as we've gone. And my dad's always been a part of dealing with the city. So we've been involved in the city of Tacoma, like the planning department and stuff. My dad's known some of those people there for 30 years, and he's always had a good relationship with them. And so our family is very old school in the way of, I have a lot of family members around here because we moved here in the 1920s. And so our reputation is bigger than our family. So it's about making a name
Whoa.
for my other family that are chiropractors, or these people over here, whatever. It's keeping this solid name all the time. So my dad's always kept that reputation. Our underground construction company was known for our quality and our character, and we've never missed paying a sub ever since the 1940s when we started that company. And that's sort of our name is quality. Now, we haven't been with the general public forever with construction. We've always been doing it in-house. So in 2021 was the first time I'd started building for other people. Um, with
Interesting.
the general public.
Hmm.
Usually we'd build spec and then sell. And we built apartments and we do those. A lot of it's for depreciation purposes. You go into all the finances of it. There's a lot of good things about apartments, a lot of bad things about apartments. You have to look at each investment and look at it from different angles. So yes, that's
What are the good and bad? What are the good and bad?
oh man.
I know the
Good and
good.
bad of
You
apartments.
said the depreciation.
It's depends on what you know of construction. You could go into a place and not know that there's like tons of extra things that are going to cost more. It depends on your property management company. It depends on who you're using. I ran all of our rentals for a long time. I was a horrible landlord, like horrible. I'll give myself like a D score, maybe an F at times, because I did not kick people out. I could fix the units, I could do all this stuff, and I was the landlord. Like I was doing all the maintenance myself, me and my guys and stuff like that, because I was running them all. I wrote my first rental agreement at 19 years old for my dad. And then we had an attorney check it out, and he was like, "That's fine," because we based it off like 4 or 5 other investors. This was before scanning and all that stuff, so I was doing it by hand. Um, but the hard part is really knowing how to handle it as non emotion. Rentals are an emotional game if you own them yourselves a lot of times. And I always tell people, get a property management company. Just do it. It takes all the emotion out and they're handling that part. You're paying a fee. So negotiate the fee. That's what you can do, right? That's a good business person, negotiate that fee. But you will save so much money if you have a property management company. And then checking out your property management company knows how to market. I was marketing, so I taught our property management company how to use Facebook Marketplace and how to use Facebook and how to pay for ads and how to do Instagram ads, those kind of things that a lot of the people around here look at. We're in a tech area. Um, so you
Hmm.
got to be at the forefront of that tech to a degree, and you have to have a budget for marketing. I mean, rentals are about marketing. It's about doing it and having enough people so you can pick the right one. You want in a short, in a house, a regular house, you want someone there for a long time because that's what saves you the money, and you make a lot more money. In apartments, you are looking for the same thing, but you're going to have that turnover. You just know it. And so it's really knowing the product. Like we build our DADUs with LVP floors, you're doing quartz countertops, you're doing box plywood cabinets, no particle board. You're doing everything that's easy to maintain and will last a very long time, right? And can last through multiple tenants. And that's how we build our apartments. I built our DADU company off of how we build apartments and that kind of stuff. But apartments, you come in and you really have to look at, like, people want to get into building new for apartments. Okay. Um, I hear it all the time because I get asked to build them for people. And even the new legislation in Washington, it's called HB 1110. Okay. It covers a whole new era of multifamily. And I'm going to get into this because I'm going to go into the DADUs and why DADUs can be more.
Yes, let's do it.
The 1110 is really good in its own right because we're in an urban area, right? Tacoma is an urban area. It can work really well. Seattle, it's worked well in Seattle, Bellevue, those kind of places. These multifamily townhouse styles, specifically. The micro units are a whole different talk. I'd get into that different. But if we're talking like regular residential townhouses, okay, you build 6 of them on a property. The cost of doing that is so extremely high right now with inflation as it's gone, because it's gone up about 25% in the construction field over the last few years. And it's literally affect us all. I mean, electricians are so much more than they were 3 years ago. Plumbers are way more. All their material is like 100% over what it was. I know our national is 3.1, right? In our construction, we saw like a 25% increase on some stuff in 1 month, during post COVID, like 2021. So it was just crazy. I couldn't even keep up with it. I was losing like 5 to 10% on my deals every single time because it takes 10 months to build a DADU from start to finish. But multifamily has a lot of infrastructure cost. You have to do storm. You have to do all the offsite improvements. You have to do parking. They make you you usually have to like have a filter vault for your water, for your storm side. There's a lot of things that cost a lot of money, and you can be into it for 200, 300,000. They now, like up in Seattle, have to be really careful because they'll make you redo the water line because a lot of their old water lines are just trash from like early 1900s and they're falling apart. And so as soon as you get a multifamily piece and you're like, yeah, I'm going to build 6 units. Oh, it's going to cost $500,000 just an infrastructure cost. Well, that can sway a whole unit, a whole project from being worth it because now you're into each unit $200,000 for both buying it, tearing down a house probably, and then putting all this extra money in per unit to make it work. And so I'm always telling people, like, you have to look at the cost of everything. First of all, you have to have that money for that down payment for that it's way more. So now let's take a DADU. You come into a DADU, they let you match pretty much the style of house or whatever. I think they're going to change a lot of the new code down here in Tacoma is going to make you do a little more storm and a little more stuff. So there is going to be some more expense there, but it's not going to be extreme. But I can build a DADU for fraction of the work that it takes to do a multifamily, because feasibility for multifamily can take 1.5 to 2 years. You could be sitting there and working on that for a very long
crazy
time. So your money's tied up. You have, let's say, $1 million tied up for a house and a lot. Okay. And you just sit there, you rent that house out. So you get a little money while you're waiting, and then you're going to tear it down. And, so there's some caveat there of something. But the reality is you're talking probably a 3.5 year project almost everywhere now in the city of Tacoma, especially if you're a person using a GC. Okay. If you don't get the right GC that knows the city, knows that municipality, like I don't build in Seattle because I don't know Seattle. I don't want to pretend to tell you, Stephen, hey, let's do Seattle. No, because I could sit there and tell you stuff and that would be a lie. I'm not the professional in Seattle. I know other guys I could refer you to. And I've been asked to franchise. I'm like, what? But I'm like, okay, we'll think about that in time. But it's really, but DAGUs are so simple based they cost a lot less and they're a lot quicker turnaround. And if you can get an investment and take that same amount of money and put it in multiple projects and have these DADUs and do one or two of them, because you're going to be able to do two of them at times too. UP University Place is already allowed two. I don't know if Ann took you through UP, but UP is a good area as well in the Tacoma area. It's an offshoot of Tacoma here, and there's some really good ones. And you don't have to do all the road improvements. You have to do nothing for offsite, which is everything. When you do new, every single time you have to do offsite. Every single time. Curb, gutter, sidewalks. You may have to do a transformer for your power because most of it's underground now. You do not have to do underground power for DADUs. You can still go overhead, especially if it's on an alley. You don't have to do a lot of storm a lot of times if your impervious is not too big. Um, you just have tons of cost savings. I can tie my sewer into the side sewer of the existing house. All I'm doing is going off your water meter, doing a shut off for each house, connecting the existing house, and then going around the house, bringing the new water line. We upsize them. We go to 3/4 of an inch, and it got tons of water flow in Tacoma. So you never have to worry about water flow. People are always worried about water flow. I'm like, we have to do, backflow valves half the time because there's so much water flow in Tacoma. So we haven't had a problem with water flow yet. Usually that's just because of galvanized piping. It's shrinking as we go. So that there's a lot of differences. So there's some stuff. What questions do you have off that?
Yeah, that's crazy. There's too many. It seems like to me, the big picture, what I was seeing is like, I'd just rather take on 3 to 5 DADU projects and just, if I can find the properties that make
Right.
sense and everything can, that's the other,
Yes,
scenario is just finding property. The inventory is
it
low.
is.
But when I was with Ann, I think we were about, I don't know, 30 minutes in the car. We started at her house and we were just cruising around to different projects,
Yep.
like, but it seems like Ann scored a lot of good deals, whether it's land to build. And, I saw the project that you guys are working on with her
Yep.
daughter, saw that one. Um, then it was funny. We were driving down the street. I'm like, "Oh, that's a cute house." She's like, "Oh, we flipped that one. That's so cute." I'm like, "Okay, you guys
Yeah.
got all kinds
She's
of
done
stuff
a
going
lot of
on."
them.
Yeah, and and then we did drive by some of your finished
Okay.
projects. She showed me some. Yeah, I got video of
Okay.
them.
There you go.
Yeah, so I when I got done, I'm just excited to get
Yeah.
going. Now it's just about finding the deals, and Anne's been really good at managing expectations as
What
well.
does that mean?
Like, well, um, she knows. Look, if it's has an alley access, it's a corner lot. I'm not gonna sit there and play a game of, should we buy it? Should we not? Analysis paralysis. I don't play that. If I see it and I trust my team, whether that's talking to Ann and she says, yeah, go for it, or it's calling you and you say, yes, no brainer, let's do this. We're
Yeah.
doing it. It's
Yeah.
that simple. Like I'm not gonna sit there and waste time. Um, it's just now just figuring out where those properties are
Right.
gonna, I don't understand Tacoma's market compared to like Seattle's as far as inventory. At the moment, it's pretty low. It's low here
Yeah.
too in California. So you kind of have to, be patient, but be ready to go.
You do. There's one, I mean, just for example, there's been a few in UP, University Place, and they have had, because they changed their code December 11th to the new. So 1137 is the code that was, it was I can't remember the name of House Bill 1137 from the state. Okay. They made it so that every place in an urban area has to abide by their new statutes by June of 2025. Okay. That includes all of the West Coast, pretty much, of Washington, outside of when you get super south. But every single municipality in our area is going to have to do this by June of 2025. University Place did it December of 2023. Tacoma is about to change it here, hopefully in July, August of this year. And then you're going to have Lakewood, some other ones that are open, that are actually decent areas for investors to buy. Because right now, like if you went to Pierce County, unincorporated Pierce County, you can't do it non-owner occupied. But there's a ton of good lots that have sewer and different things like that that are going to be open to and available just as much as Tacoma would be. Okay. They might actually be more advantageous. We don't know yet. Um, I got to see what they do with
Mm.
their code because each municipality gets to choose their own code. But University Place,
Mhm.
just I'm going to give you an example. I mean, we're developing. I'm actually not even going to build them. I'm designing them for a friend of mine because they are builders themselves, but they're really close friends. I don't usually do that, but I'm doing it for them. He's one of my best friends, and we're developing two DADUs. The house is in the middle, and then we're doing a DADU. Okay. Well, he bought the whole place for 500. UP is one of the highest per capita rates of houses. Like the cost of houses is the value is the highest in that area in North Tacoma. Okay, in our area here. Um, and so they're going to get these two. They're going to build these things for probably about 300 each. You know, they're going to be 1,000 square feet. They're going to be ramblers. They're making them ramblers so that anybody can get in them. One we can add a garage onto. In UP, you have a little different rules, so you can add a garage plus have 1,000 square foot unit. So it's going to be really nice. So
Cool.
let's say they're both into it for 300,000. Well, those are worth 575 over there in UP. I mean, that a brand new place, you know, you're used is very different than brand new right now in this market, you know. New is
In what way? In what way?
no,
Just more
someone doesn't
appealing?
have
Is
to
that what you're
come in
saying?
and do anything to it. People know
Yeah.
remodel costs a lot now. You know what I mean? And that remodel costs, like for you as an investor coming in, I'm gonna if I'm your agent, I'm steering you towards, if I can, finding properties that are semi already done. Okay, like the house, the existing house, because it just saves you so much money. Um, you can
Mm.
spend a 50,000 more to have that semi remodeled house and you don't have to touch it, that's worth some money, because having to get the subs and running that and all that stuff of remodel is some of the most annoying work that you can do. Where new is very easy, it's simple, it's bare ground. I just go and build. It's nothing.
Yeah, you know what you're getting yourself into
Exactly.
from point A to
And I
B.
know that
Yeah.
you're gonna have a good product. Where remodel, it just you can get in there and go, oh man, it's gonna be 40,000 for this. And it ends up being 65. And you're just like, oh, this sucked. It's put my numbers off. And now I'm not making as much and I'm annoyed. So that's the thing that I'm always careful with. I was a bad agent because I did not sell very well. I would always talk people out of the property saying there's something better because I'm a judge of, I mean, I used to have all investor clients. That's all I had pretty much. And I would sell 40 a year on my own before I ever had a team, just doing it on the side while I was a superintendent. And I loved it but it was during the recession, there was millions of houses to look at. So it was a different time then. This is a totally different beast now.
Yeah. Well, back then it's almost like you could go out on a given weekend and look at, 10 to 15 houses and try to have to figure out which one's going to be the best
But
one to go for,
it was. And you would just go,
It
oh,
was
I don't want the
crazy.
short sale because I know that's going to take 3 months. I'm going to do the bank owned one and I'll close it in 12 days. It didn't matter. Um,
Oh
it
gosh.
was, and I could
Such
literally
a
go on a
crazy
block
time.
and see 6 house for sale signs in a 2 square blocks. It would be insane. I mean, I was superintendent. And so from job to job, as I'm going to run my subs, I would stop at like 3 houses along the way that I'd looked at on the MLS at 5:30 in the morning. And I go, oh, I'm going to stop at that one, that one, that one. That's going to be on my way from this job to this job. So I could do it all throughout my day because I was doing it for my dad too. I was his agent. So I'd help these guys find stuff and they loved working. It's like Ann, except I was a superintendent. So I knew literally, oh my gosh, this beam right here is totally structural. Um, we can't move that one in this house. That's not structural at all. There's trusses. We can take out this whole wall. It won't matter. It doesn't affect anything. That was the part that I had a lot of fun with my guys that I worked with back then. Because we just call that stuff out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I've noticed, over the years of, you know, becoming mostly a full-time real estate investor, it really makes you a better agent
Mm,
when helping buyers and
absolutely.
sellers. It does, and it's in a very and I didn't expect it to happen like that. I just got into real estate investing
Right.
and, wanted to create wealth. I wanted to reduce my taxes and all the
Yeah.
things that I, started to learn about. But then it started translating as like, a strength when, you know, having a new buyer get
Yep.
referred to me or a new seller and how we structure how they're going to move their cash and what they're going to do
Right.
afterwards. And like, I don't know, it really opened up a lot of
Well,
doors,
you're Michelin.
unintended too.
You just know things that most agents that have never done an investment, you become like, you go up to the top 20% of all agents instantly when you've done an investment, because you go through that hard
Yeah.
knocks, right? There's no
Oh yeah.
magic ball. I mean, you're doing remodels. I've seen you. You're doing an add-on, you're doing different things right now. Those are hard. They're not easy little projects, you know? And there's a
No.
lot of decisions in those, you know what I mean? Once you get into it, you're like, I didn't know there
Yeah.
was 85 decisions for this project. Oh, wow, this
Yes.
isn't as easy as I saw on HGTV. What the heck?
Oh, I know. How about that? Yeah, and that is the truth. Seriously. Yesterday we had a Zoom call with my contractor and the designer, and my contractor, he's a good friend of
Yeah.
mine, super cool guy. Very much similar to you, honestly,
Okay.
personality wise, like the energy's
Yep.
there, and that's why we just gravitated
Yeah.
to each other. And he he took the job, and then he called me up and he's like, "Hey, dude, I'm hiring a designer for you. It's on me. Like, I want you to do really good on this
Mhm.
project. I want, this is our first one together. We're gonna nail this one." Okay, cool. So he hired her, and basically what she's doing is she's doing the kitchen and the master bathroom. Like that's and I know why he didn't. Oh no, I'm sorry. Kitchen, master bathroom, and the powder room.
Okay.
Those three. Then we have another Jack and Jill, but that's off the list, and I found that out yesterday. We're going through things and she's showing the designs and different, layouts of the kitchen and, different, island, like, ways we're gonna tweak out the island, like a basic island, but now we're looking at one that's got, like, an island with, like, a bench seating
Okay.
type at the end
Yep.
of it. So we're kind of gravitating towards that. But afterwards, I'm like, "Hey, we haven't talked about the Jack and Jill." He's like, "Oh, no, he left that out. I'm just focusing on this." I'm like, "Okay, cool." But she had a laundry list of, she did the presentation, and by 9 o'clock at night, she's like, "I need answers." Like,
Right.
she's ready to go. I'm like,
Okay.
"Okay." And it's like, that's one project. Then, I have other projects
Right.
that are finishing that now so it's, yeah, but it definitely prepares you to deal with buyers and
Yeah.
sellers. Like, it all
Yep.
translates into that, um interesting enough, that project that you saw
Yeah.
online, uh, that seller is a partner in it now.
Oh, wow.
She's yeah, it's a crazy story. So, I grew up with
Uh-huh.
her, and, she moved to Arizona, and she doesn't really make that much money. Um, Maybe has been bad with money, over her lifetime, and she saw a video on Facebook of me talking about property management. She reached out to
Okay.
me and, wanted to have she said, "Hey, look, I inherited a house in Willow Glen, childhood home. We have a tenant in there. They pay this, and, the house is paid off, and, we're getting hammered on property taxes." And, she's like, I don't know what to do." I'm like, "I would sell it immediately. Like, I think you need to take that
Right.
money and start to
Right.
invest." And, and it was like it's been really interesting because it's like this really interesting test.
Mm.
I put things out to her and I say that, "Here's my experience. I'm going to give you options. Let's see what you pick." And I came back to her. I said, "You can sell this house off market to a flipper or a builder, and you're going to it's going to be under market, but you'll get a quick
Yep.
close. You don't have to do anything. You can potentially be a partner in it,
Mhm.
and you can learn how to flip a house and go this direction,
Okay.
or we could put it on the market, and you're gonna sell it at market, and you're gonna know exactly what you're gonna get, and you can move on with your cash. I don't need you to tell me right now. Give me a call back." She called me back following day. She's like, "I want number 2.
Okay.
I wanna be a part of it." And I'm like, "Cool." But the really cool thing about her, and it's just been really awesome to watch her growth, is she's taken all my advice, and then she's doing the things too, like,
Mm.
"Hey, I want you to watch podcasts. I want you to get into YouTube. I want you" like, she wants to become an investor, and she is putting in all the effort. And I've mentored a few, new
Yeah.
investors over the last year that just come to me through, like, Instagram or
Yep.
referrals, and she's taken it on a whole
Yeah.
'nother level, like, and she sees it. She gets the big
Right.
picture. She's excited, and gosh, what a great feeling it is to watch her
That's
grow.
so cool.
and then it really leads into something I told Anne, you know, I've had a checkered past. You know, I was a drug
Yeah.
addict for, from teenage all the way to my 35,
Mm,
been there, done that. And, I turned my life around, and I think that it really goes to, other people out there that you can be a drug addict and get
mm,
clean and go another direction. You could be an alcoholic. You could, whatever your issues are, you can grow from
yes.
that. And this is what I'm watching with her in real time, and it's just been
That
really
is
cool. So yeah, she's a part of
wow.
this process, and she's actually going to be one of Anne's clients.
Really. That is so cool. I
Hmm.
mean, the thing
She's going to be one of your clients too.
well, and I'm just I never expected to do when I talked with my dad, I was like, "Hey, maybe we'll do 10 a year," And, that
Hmm.
will be great because it gives us some stability. It allows us to do because we do our own investing, right? We're building a 48 unit apartment complex in University Place right now. And we're gonna be building some stuff in Puyallup. And we have, probably about 3 years worth of apartments to build right now for us. We don't try to go big, we don't try to go crazy. Um, we sometimes have equity partners, sometimes we do them on our own. But when the name of the game for all of it, which I love this part of it the most, is educating, right? And that's what you're doing. You're
Yeah.
educating someone that there's nothing that I did not I knew I'd go ahead with educating when I started this, okay? But I didn't expect um how enjoyable it would be to just educate. I'm not making money off teaching. I've taught probably almost 2,000 people already about this, like at different local stuff here in Washington, in Tacoma, Puyallup area. But,
No, it's cool.
it's what I love. I love talking about it, sharing. I get a lot of people I take a lot of my time is just giving people advice for free and just helping them out because I feel like that's what the name of the game is. People don't have a chance, and there's a lot of stuff online. I need to be better with my social presence of like YouTube or doing some kind of podcast and talking about stuff, but I love this stuff. This is what I enjoy is sharing with someone that is open to investing. They want to grow, they want to do that stuff. And and that's what you're doing. I mean, that's what you're doing with her and those kind of things will change the trajectory of her life forever. I mean, you're literally making an imprint on a human that will totally change the rest of their life. And how many people will she affect? It's like discipleship concept of a Christian side that I grew up with.
Yeah.
Discipleship is what
Yes.
that is. And it's taking a few, mentoring them, and then letting them go and spread that same message, right? And it's beautiful. It's just a
Yeah.
beautiful, so fun. It's so rewarding.
D-
And it has nothing to do with
It
monetary,
is.
in my
It's so.
opinion. It has to do with just that enjoyment of being with people.
Yeah. I fully agree, and I didn't know. So I've been an agent since
Okay.
2008, and but my background is pretty creative. Like I've been a hairdresser
Oh,
too
okay.
since the early
Nice.
90s. So hairdresser, and that's how I got into real estate. I don't want to tell. I know I told this story before on other podcasts, but that's how I got into real estate was from being a hairdresser behind the chair, helping engineer guys go look at properties, and they're fixer uppers or they
Right.
needed remodeling, and they bring me because they think I'm like the creative
Yeah.
one and I
Yeah.
can figure it out. So I would, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, knock that wall out, and we can do this and this and this." And then they're like, "Cool." I'm like, "Oh, I got an agent for you," and I would refer them out, and so that's kind of how I got. So it's always been a creative
Yeah. Yeah.
background. Like I used to DJ too, and so the one thing that I just had a really, really hard, and I still do as long as I'm doing it my way, but I couldn't get behind real estate marketing that was going on back in like the the kind of low, just listed, just sold,
Right.
and look at me and all that. It's really it didn't work
Yeah.
good for me. I'm just not that kind of agent. And I just say that I'm really bad at sales like that. But once I started understanding marketing when it came to social media and like Instagram and just bringing value and telling stories and my experience and stuff like that and what I'm doing and just kind of packaging it up that way, then it was like full full gear to move forward because it was much I'm giving value
Right.
and it showed,
Yep.
look what Karen, saw a video on property management
Right.
and there she
Right.
calls me,
Exactly.
like it's like and that felt way more and it continues that
Yeah.
way. People call all the time or, text me and ask questions and probably need to get better at building out a community and taking
Yeah.
more mentees under me, and I think that's a little bit of I'd call it the limiting beliefs, like, oh, I'm probably not good enough, but even though everybody else is like, dude, you're really good, and
Yeah.
like you need to lean into this more. Like the universe is telling me, I just have to follow what the universe is kind of
Yeah.
saying. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
and that's it. I mean, I've done the same thing, and we all have our limiting beliefs, right? And that's just part of the
Yeah.
deal of humanity. We go through those ups and downs, and I I've done the same. And then you only have so much time. Like I have an 11 and a 13-year-old, so at my stage where I'm at as a dad, it's like very involved. I coach, I do a lot of things like that. I'm training with my kids. They both play basketball. They're both going to be giants. My daughter's almost 5'10", my son's almost 5'8", and he's 11, So it's just you fit whatever you can in, but it's just helping people. I think that's the biggest thing for me is giving back, is just always going forward with gratitude, and then you win in the end. But going back to some of the stuff that we were talking about is the DADUs are by far, in my opinion, the best opportunity we've ever had in real estate. They're filling a need. They're not ugly, like in the way, like mine are not always pretty. Like you may not like everything I do because I am an investor to the T. I know.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
What do you mean by that?
so let's take a modern house versus like a very basic craftsman style. Okay, craftsman style is going to be a lot cheaper from a standpoint of building a lot of times than a modern. Okay, just from the product, the different things, and when it's on an alley in the back of a house and you're in Tacoma, you might get a few thousand more for the modern, but you may not. You might not get hardly anything because it's based on square footage and it's based on these things. And if I can build something a little more reasonable for my client and they can sell it for the same price at 565 and the modern will go for 565, who cares? I go with more of a basic style. They're not, I wouldn't say I have done a couple really nice ones, but then they start getting pretty expensive, right? And I try to keep my stuff. I have a big one that I do that's like a little over 300, but everything else is under 300. And that's a pretty good price point anywhere in the city of Tacoma because you can't buy anything like that at all. And you're getting the land with the house. So you're literally into it for under 300 usually, for a especially a single story or something like that. I have nothing over like 270, 275. So I tell people,
And what's that get? Let's
yeah.
back that up a little bit. So for those who don't know this whole DADU play or an ADU play, that's what's going to be going on in California, is basically you're buying the
Mhm.
house and essentially the land in the backyard is free. You then you're taking that land, you're building a DADU or an ADU, and you got your permits, maybe a survey. You're in it for about what, 30 to 40 on that scenario, and then you're building at like 250. Is that kind
No,
of the
so like
range?
for me, I'm different than other guys. So I'm my own
Okay.
unique because we've built so much of our own forever by ourselves. Um, when I say like, so let's take, for example, my average is a 750 square foot Rambler. Okay. No garage, just a 750 square foot unit. So going off a 750 square foot Rambler in Tacoma is going to be around 250,000. When I say 250,000, so there's three things that a lot of times I don't cover in the price, and it depends on the site. Okay. It's the water line, the sewer, and underground electrical. I can't see those when I walk into the site. Okay. I can't see exactly. Now, the water line, a lot of times I include in the price because water lines are the same. I'm coming off the water meter, I'm putting two shutoffs, I'm reattaching the existing house, and I'm going around the yard. If it's a nice yard, I'm always going to do cost plus. If it's a grass, I just include in the price. So the water is sort of included because I know how much those cost. They're about the same every single time for me as a general. But sewer is different every single lot. You just cannot compare them. One might be 10 feet deep, one might be 3 feet deep, one might have fall, one might not have fall. Okay. If we don't have fall to the sewer line and we have to go uphill, you have to do a grinder pump. Those are 10,000 without thinking. You just have to, that's what they cost. Um, so I'll do cost plus on that. And then underground, it's really hard to know exactly what the power is going to be because you have to wait till you do an application. And I do a one bid. Okay. So I just do a bid right off the bat, but I'm all inclusive. When I say 250,000, that's design, that's permits, That's the whole building. That's tax. And you'll have probably like two
Good.
cost plus items, and then I have a general package. How I do it, I do an investor package. That's my standard package. Okay. That's a fiberglass shower. It's not tile. It's quartz countertops. It's box plywood cabinets. It's LVP flooring. It's a split system. Now our prices are going to increase a little bit because they just passed the stupid energy code. So now we're going to have to do outside insulation, R5 foam board with it sealed, and you're going to have to do R61 insulation in the attic instead of R49. I don't know exactly what's on the floor. I think they're upping the R value in the floor a little bit, and then you're going to have 8 energy credit points you have to hit instead of 5. So I don't know if we're going to have to add an ERV system, which is a fresh air return. I don't know exactly what's going to happen there, but those things could add another, let's say $5,000. Okay. So let's say it's 255. You might be charged for the sewer. If I can do it on site and it's close by, that might be a couple grand. Okay. And then let's say the underground, you have to underground the power. That's going to be about 3 or 4 grand, okay, or 5 grand, maybe. You're going to be all in for, let's say, around 260,000. Okay. That's all of the whole thing. That's everything. There's no like hidden stuff. It's just it.
And then what does the timeline look like
Usually,
to get one from beginning to end?
usually it's about two plus, like about 2.5 months for design. That's architectural, structural, getting all the design going through. And that's from the time of contract. So as soon as I get the contract signed, we start the clock, and that's about 2.5 months. And then it's about 2.5 to 3 months for permits usually. A lot of times I can get them in 6 weeks, but sometimes it can be delayed. They had one summer where they had 4 people on maternity or paternity leave all at one time. So they were way delayed.
Of course.
Of course, yeah, naturally, everybody had the babies at the same time. And then it's about 5 months for construction at the max. Like I did Ann's garage conversion in, I think the whole thing took like 5 months from the inception all the way through because it was garage conversion. And it was super fast. I mean, it was like the perfect storm. So that was the fastest one I've ever done, is like 5 months, which was Ann's. Great way to start off the work with Ann.
Yes.
But
Yes.
the normal new construction one is about a 10-month process from start to finish. If
10
I'm
months.
too
Okay.
busy, and I will tell people, I'm an open book. I'm not like sort of hiding things. I'll say it's 11 months because we may be so busy that I have to do that. My designer, she is awesome. Her name's Elisa. She had a baby last year that has massive reflux issues and is still being fed through a feeding tube that was 3 months premature. I have to be generous with her. I have to be gracious. I mean, she only has so much time. And if I have to use an architect, architects take way longer. Okay. So then if I do my architect, I have to add like 2.5 months to it, because they can take, right now, architects are so slow. Comparatively to doing it in-house. And I know I can control everything with my employee. I'm trying to hire another designer right now, just to have 2 part-times, because I let them work from home. They get a lot of freedom, and it's pretty well-paying job for working for me. And I'm not a micromanager. So my Elisa loves it because she's been able to work, really part-time doing a full-time work. Because she can focus so well at her house. So I pay her the same. I pay her salary. So it's been pretty good. But that's where my timeframes are, is about 10 months.
Okay. That's
And I
good.
can customize them. So like I am doing them in house. So I have a lot of plans I'll use as a base fluff, and then I'll go from there. And I think they're going to take away all the design guide issues once the new code comes out, which is going to allow us to do modern or something, whether it's a craftsman house, I can do a modern DADU, I can do whatever. Because I do think that's going to come. The biggest thing is the height requirements right now. They limit us, and that's what kills me right now from doing something a little cooler. Is the height? We are,
The
yeah,
height.
we're only allowed 20 feet if you have a garage underneath. Um, and they make you do this daylight plane issue. How do I explain this on a podcast? So you have a straight up line that's 15 feet high, okay, and then they do a 45-degree line over here, and it's on CAD, okay, and they go it up against your plan of your house, your vertical plans, and if your eave touches this, it has to move back from that, like about it, it's right, it has to be right there at this angle of 45, which makes you go further away from the property line. So as it gets taller, they don't want it shadowing the next door property. It's asinine. It's
Interesting.
asinine. It's the most annoying rule known to humankind. And I think they're going to take it away. But right now, if I have a 2-story unit, I have a normal 5-foot setback I have to go. Pretty much brings it to 9 feet. So it adds 4 more feet. So we waste a lot of space on the lot. And that's on both sides. So that's why we usually have to do a gable roof. You can do flat, but flat gets way more, you're spending more for a flat roof or metal or something like that. So we're trying to keep them reasonable. I try to really keep them reasonable because you have a lot of resale here. Now, I will say, and this is hurting me, I guess, Seattle has more value in the houses a lot of times. Okay. You have a much bigger pool of investors, though. You are competing far greater in Seattle than you are in Tacoma with DADUs right now. Like,
Yes.
I am doing the most of anyone in Tacoma right now. I know by permits, and I've talked to the city so many times. They're like, you're doing more than everybody combined. Okay, fine. That's great. It doesn't matter. But Seattle is much more competitive. Okay. So you can find those things, but you really need to know the market. I know guys that do them up there and flip them. And there is some good numbers there, but you're putting in twice as much money. So, it's
Yes.
it's a give and take, but I know you can make a good amount on the end. Down here, I think as soon as they pass this code and they make it a little more usable, I think this is going to be about the same numbers from a profit standpoint as you'd have up there. Um, but until that's condoed, until we can condo, which we'll get into, I'm sure, but the condoing side is going to make these worthwhile. Um, but if they can take out that setback, where that daylight plane is, it's a huge rule that's so annoying. They're thinking of making the rule to be SFR. So SFR stands for single family residence. So the single family residence code is like a lot of times 25 to 30 feet. Okay. Height. If we can get that right now, we're at an average of 20 if we have a garage. If it's not a garage and you just do 2-story with living space, it's 18 feet. It's almost impossible to do
Mm.
2-story with 18 feet. And so it's just they make it a little bit difficult still, and I think we're getting real close to making it a lot more functional. UP just changed their stuff, and they have some really weird. I'm not going to get into the code there, but we're able to do 2 on some of those nicer lots, and that place. I mean, those things are going to be worth a lot. I bet you those houses will be worth, like I said, 550 to 600,000, and if they're building them for 300, there's some good value there. But yeah.
And you can build 2 on a lot?
Yeah, so even in Tacoma, we're not sure what the lot requirement will be. Like UP,
You mean the
you
size?
can't build
The
2
size?
unless it's 9,000 square foot lot. Okay.
Okay.
And if you and I will go over, you know, actual requirements on a different talk, maybe when you're up here or something, I'll actually show you those, because meeting you and showing you on a computer is much easier. So you actually understand all the stuff. And it's doesn't take actually that long. It takes me about an hour. I showed Ann everything in about an hour. So you'll be very
Okay.
educated once I can get you on a computer and we do, that stuff. And then
Cool.
you will feel comfortable. I mean, I could show you I use all public stuff. I'm not using some proprietary item. I'm using DartMap, which is the city of
Yeah.
Tacoma's mapping software. Very easy, and in Pierce County for University Place. So, but anyways, yeah, you will be able to do 2. They'll all be this whole area will be non-owner occupied. So that's why it's going to open it up to everywhere here by June of 2025, and that's when I think for even you, I think some of these DADUs, they're going to just be houses to a degree, and they're going to be throughout the whole county. And there's places all over you could go. It's just going to open up the world to us being able to, those first people that invest in this. It's going to be no brainer probably for about 2 years. I think there's going to be a 2-year window, and then it's going to get pretty saturated. Usually it's about 2 to 3 years here. Tacoma's definitely behind Seattle by about 5, 6 years, in everything. Especially the county or the city municipalities, the city councils and stuff. And we are the ugly stepchild a lot of times, just so you know. So
Oh, no, I've heard.
there's a lot of good down here from an investment standpoint. And that's what I think we're all looking for, right? Is those deals. They're just going to be a less educated buyer down here a lot of times. Um, you have less money down here comparatively to Seattle. And those are the things I look at as being living here all my life, and being in
Hmm.
competition with Seattle, sort of. It's really not a competition. It's more just they look down at us, and that's the way it is. So,
Yeah, that's all I heard about was, oh, are they going to take you to Hilltop?
yeah, and Hilltop's actually really nice now. I mean, it's not like that bad.
And I told Ann to tell my take me to Hilltop, so she takes me through that. I'm like, I love when people say that. I'm like, look, I bought my first investment property in East Detroit.
Oh,
I think I'm all
you're
good.
good.
I think everything's just fine.
Well, Hilltop, if you went in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, we wouldn't be buying a Hilltop. We wouldn't even drive through there. It just wouldn't be, but it's nothing the same anymore. I mean, it's like, it's a
That's
nicer
true.
area. There's like, if you go over to one side of it, it's super nice. It's no different than North Tacoma. It's just the Hilltop, quote unquote,
Yeah.
name. But it's totally changed. So, but yeah, there's gonna be
Yeah, that's
two.
cool.
I don't know exactly all the rules are gonna be. They're supposed to release the rules, the new code, I think, in the next month, and then we'll be able to prepare. Like, I have a whole list of people waiting to build once the code comes out and changes. They just didn't want to do it yet. They wanted to wait. I probably have like 12, 15 people that are probably going to build right after I go, or want to get going. So
What's the biggest data you can build at the moment?
1,000 square feet footprint. So you have footprint and then you have actual square footage. And there's three different rules that they calculate how you can do your square footage. And I'll tell you those: 85% of the square footage, 85% of the footprint, or 15% of the lot square footage. Okay. And it's the smallest of those three. So most of the time, we're based on the footprint of the house or the lot square footage, if that makes sense. The square footage, if you have a
Okay.
two-story, throws it off, and you're never going to get that usually. So people will be like, oh, even the city messes up. I had a person call me. I met with a gal yesterday, and she's like, well, I can build to 999 square feet. I was like, no, you can't. Your lot 6,000. You can build 900 square feet. I don't know who you talked to, but they were wrong. And the city planners still space out on all three rules and combining them and making sure that you're doing the right one. But so you're looking usually, I mean, like an ideal one is like a 1,250 square foot house footprint, not a two-story, a one-story. So the base is about 1,250. The lot is about 7,000. You're going to be able to go up to 1,000 square feet all day long. And the biggest bang for your buck for DADUs is doing a two-story. Because you can match the garage in Tacoma, um, at and let me just explain this real quickly. Your entry at a two-story and the landing and then the staircase below counts towards the square footage. So your footprint ends up being about 965. You have to about 35 square feet or 40 square feet down below. That counts for that square
Mm,
footage. So your footprint's going to be about, let's say, 960 square feet. Okay. But you get this giant garage downstairs that's huge. Okay. And you put the utility, you put your washer and dryer down there, your water heater, that kind of stuff. And then upstairs, you can make, really a nice one is a two-bedroom, one or two bath. A lot of times we'll do a one bathroom with like double sinks or something like that. And they are really nice. Now, this is under the radar. Um, you can put
I
another
know where you're
bedroom,
going with
bathroom
this.
downstairs after the fact, potentially. I'm not going to talk about that, but it makes it a very large place. And because it's on sewer, it shouldn't even matter. Um, because the only time that would not work, and I would never tell anybody, is when you have septic. You never want to add anything with a septic unless you're adding a bonus room or something like that, because it's not going to work when you sell it. The appraiser will call that out, and you won't have the value of that the same way. So on sewer, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like, you could have 30 bathrooms and 14 bedrooms, and it's still going to be the same with a 4-inch sewer line coming out of your house. So, um, but that's where you get the biggest bang because you get this huge garage. So at the end, you get a 2-car garage with this nice place, and they're, and I'm building the stock part of it with the two-story with the two-bedroom, one bath for about three. I think my total is 307. I've built probably about 9 of them now, and they're really nice because I've built about 30. I think I built 32 now, and I'm building 17 more. So I'll be almost to 50 after probably June, July. So I'm learning. I think after about 10, you get to know what you're feeling. But then you really get into the depths of how the lots work. So I can go to a lot now and pretty much know all the caveats that are going to be good or bad on a property. Um, but yeah, like whenever I say prices though, Stephen, it's always all in. I'm not giving most of the guys will do tax separate or this separate or that separate. I try to do them, if it makes common sense and I'm sitting out there and I'm looking at the sewer and it's going to the alley and I know I can defer it around and make it easy, I'm not going to charge for the sewer. It's like they'll be there. Then my guy will only probably charge me a little bit. And I'm like, why would I charge my client? I'm trying to make I charge usually 25%, 30%. That's my usual markup. So I'm not crazy or anything
Okay.
like that. I'm not doing something nuts or they're small. So you're going to charge a little bit more. Like if I do a custom bigger house, I'm usually 15% or something. But on these ones, to make them worth it, I have to do that. And that's my overhead and profit. I don't put hardly, I put like in my little bid sheet that I have personally, I put usually like 3,000 bucks in for superintending. That's the only thing I do. And then everything else is in my overhead, which is in that 25 to 30%.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Now we just got to get Ann to find some properties for
Oh
us.
yeah. Well, that will happen. I mean, there's been some really good ones. I mean, my dad is a freak this way because of his good old OCD civil engineering person. He's probably every morning he usually is sending me some kind of lot that he sees on Redfin because he's not an agent. He's been tempted to get his license just because he loves looking at houses and going in them. And he's 69 and he has all the time in the world. He golfs and works with us a little bit per week, my brother and I. And then he travels usually once a month somewhere for about, 4 to, days to a week with a buddy or something like that. They go golfing. My dad's an avid golfer. I think he's 11 or 12 handicap right now. So he's pretty good. And
That's
yeah, he just
awesome.
has a lot of
Good
fun,
for
but he
him.
loves doing the looking. So he sees them, and because of his engineering, because he was a drafter, he can draft them up real fast. So still do them by hand, and draft up. Okay, Matt, would this work? So I've been teaching him the code too because he wants to get really good at it. Because we're actually here's something. We're selling an apartment so we can do DADUs. That's how much more advantageous. We know from our apartment complex. Now we're builders, so we make the money off building the apartment. Okay. Um, we're not looking for that long term. We could hold some, which we will hold some, but most of the time we're looking at long term capital gains and then dumping it because that money is better used when you're a builder to go rebuild because you make your money on the land originally when you buy it, right? Knowing what we're doing, knowing
Yeah.
having our knowledge as a GC. Um, and so we're selling an apartment and we're going to take it and do the ADUs. That's what we're going to do. So, um,
Yeah,
and
that's
there is
great.
enough to go around. There is. It's not easy right now, but there are a lot of decent ones. And you may want to talk to Ann and say, hey, I want to start with University Place because their code's already changed. You can condo those.
I'm going to bring that up to her. I'll bring that up
Yeah,
to her.
yeah. And if you come out here and you're seeing me, I mean, I could take you around the same as her. Like I had a team for we had a team for 6 years till 2016. Yeah, 2011. No, 5 years. I had my team. I mean, I trained probably like 60 agents during that time, and then I coached a bunch of people. And so I used to be an agent for I've sold over 1,000 homes on my team and stuff between myself personally. So I've done enough real estate in my life.
I think you know how to drive someone around and show them some
Yeah,
cool
yeah, and
stuff.
I would just do it for Ann.
I think
I
you can do
mean,
that.
because I can show you the business, the building stuff too, and take you through a couple that are in construction. That's what I would do. So, but that
Yeah.
UP area is going to be really beneficial until Tacoma gets going, and then all of it starts. And then by next June, I'm not kidding. This whole area is going to just be a little gold mine for a while. It may end up lasting for 5 years. It just depends on when competition and some of these guys. I think we're keeping like my prices are pretty fair to lower than some of the guys. I don't know anybody that's much cheaper than I am, and I wouldn't say cheap. It's more just a common sense price, I guess I could say it as. I mean, I sure there's guys
Mhm.
that could do it for less. It's just dependent on how they do it and how their system is. They may take 3, 4, 5 months more. Um, but right now I know there's nobody that's really any different than me in price. They might just be a little bit more, but um, I've because I try to keep that and be fair, always. It's not about, you go with what the market does. So we'll see what happens as more competition. I know a couple of Seattle guys have tried to come in and they don't know the city very well, so they take way longer. and that time is what kills.
They got that learning curve
Yeah, and the learning curve
to
doesn't change. It's your relationship with the city, and that takes years. I've talked to the city
build.
guys like hundreds of times now, and so a lot of them are our friends now. I look at the city as my team, right? We have to be on the same team for our client because that's what it is. It's a team concept, and that really does speak well down the road when I have an issue that comes up. I don't always win because code is code, right? But they will work around things. Traffic is one of them. They want to always take approaches out from the front yard if you don't have a garage, and then put it in the alley, okay, with the DADU, whatever, and have your parking in the alley. Well, one of them, well, actually, three of them, I've gotten this done. Ricky is the guy with the traffic. And so I'll have Ricky and we'll have a chat with him and stuff like that. And he's passed them by and not made us take out the approaches three different times now. So it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen, but we do have a little bit of say as our team because we've been doing it and they know we do good work and we're quality. And when they do, when you build that trust with the city, you do get a little bit of special treatment. And it's not saying that they're cheating anything, but they do based off how easy their lives are with the people that they work with. So
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely get together the next time I come out there for sure. Like I said, I don't know. I was on a dopamine hit of overload of properties and stuff, and I just had to get after it was Ann, I was like, "All right, I'm driving back to Seattle," and then I had to meet with somebody else, and then I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna chill and do tour stuff." So, but it was a good trip. It's easy to get to Seattle and
yeah.
Tacoma, to fly in from California. That's good. Where can the audience find you?
The easiest is Instagram at Tacoma DADU, TACOMA DADU.
Cool.
I'm pretty easy. I have my phone number all over the place. I tie it to my personal account, Matthew Rody. And I'm just who I am. Then you can see my family, who we are I'm a normal guy. I have a family, I have a wife and two kids, and been married for 18 years. And um, I love the Lord, and I try to live by that. Not putting a fish on my card, but by the quality of conversation we can have and the integrity of just doing good construction, and try to be a good communicator. I think that's the biggest thing in life in general is like you're a good communicator. That's what makes you who you are. And
Yeah.
trying to always do that. But yeah, Tacoma DADU on Instagram is probably the easiest.
Yeah, and I'll link it in the show notes. I appreciate you jumping
Thanks
on,
you.
and obviously this is not the we're talking on a podcast, but we're just having a
Yeah.
conversation, but we're gonna be working together. So it's kind of a cool thing. It's almost like and that is honestly we can end it on that. That's the power of having a podcast. I've had people go, "Do you make money having a podcast?" Like, the time you put into it. And I go, I make
Yeah.
relationships with the podcast. That's the big key. That's how I met Anne. That's how I met you. And that's the
Mhm.
part that's been really powerful. And it's really cool just to, have, hear people's backstories and what they do. It's just a great thing. And I appreciate you, being willing to jump on, which I think is a big thing. I don't think every contractor is willing to do that. I don't think not everybody's willing to jump on a podcast or do social media for their business. So, kudos for
I
you
think
for doing that, like it's cool.
And I
It's
think it's a
great. So,
privilege. I love it. I look forward to this kind of stuff because it's education, right? Our goal
yeah.
isn't to like my goal. I think you're the same. We're not here to make billions of dollars on stuff. We're here to educate. And if we align, right? If we're in alignment, then we can do work together, right? And then everybody can make money on
Yes.
each other, right? Because that's the whole goal is
Yeah.
we're wise at what we do, right? We're good stewards of what we do, and we're trying to pass that on to other people. And I appreciate it. I love it. I
100%.
love talking, and I love helping you go through a process because I think that's important. And I think you will invest in Seattle. I think you're going to go some north, and I want you to have something to go by so that you have something to judge. Um,
Yeah.
and that's important. I want there are a lot of guys that try to scam out there. So I know a couple.
I've been through
Yeah.
it.
So
I've been through it. I tell those stories too,
yeah.
and that's, I think that's part of, building. Like, Anne is super sweet. I get a good vibe from her. You as well. I'm hopefully getting better at creating my
Okay.
teams. I think that I've over the years, put a little too much trust in
Mhm.
people. Like I see the good,
Yeah.
and I've been burned.
Uh,
I get it. It happens. So, but I feel good about Tacoma and I feel good about Seattle. There's room for both, and that's how I'm going to treat this moving forward. So, I appreciate you jumping on today. We'll be in touch.
yeah.
I'll be in Tacoma, but yes, we'll talk again.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, all right,
Okay.
buddy. Talk
See
to you
ya.
soon. Thank you for tuning into our show, where we hope you found inspiration and gained valuable insights. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to stay updated on our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and share it with others who might benefit from it. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more candid conversations and breakthrough moments in the future. Until next time, take care and keep exploring new ideas and strategies.